again, offtheball.com is where you can get your tickets for those two shows. Now, we're talking rugby.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us. Everyone in.
We're hopefully joined by Ronan O'Gara. You're there?
Sorry, Joe. Just low battery. Not a great start. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Ro. How are you?
Good, thanks.
We get two of us in when we're going to really grill someone.
Well, you only need one, as you know, as I well know.
So where are you at the moment?
I am in La Rochelle.
Okay. Training today?
Yeah. Got the 7 a.m. flight and worked a treat, actually. Got on. We had yesterday off, so went to Cork for the weekend, which was brilliant. Hadn't been there in a few years. Still as great as always. You know, Joe. So
and come here, do they do a parade when you go back to Cork, or how does that work now?
Next question.
So when did you start training with La Rochelle? When did all this really kick into gear? Last few days or a bit longer?
15th of July.
Okay.
So we did one rugby week and then we had a stage, kind of a pre-season tour, where we went kind of to a French military camp, a few days in the mountains, kind of doing a few tasks and then a few fun-based exercise at sea. But obviously not out in the depths of sea, just a few obstacle courses and a bit of fun and a bit of team bonding and a barbecue and back into work then. Had Saturday, Sunday, Monday off and back in today.
That stuff, that military camp stuff is clearly of a value if you're spending precious time doing it. What does it bring to the party?
It was good in the fact that fellas are put in positions where they're uncomfortable and they're vulnerable, and you don't really sometimes get that on high ropes, for example. You know, an exercise I wouldn't be too familiar with, but I suppose when you get it, when you're 300 feet above something and you obviously have a rope that connects you, but it's not your normal behaviour, or your normal routine. So you're put outside your comfort zone. People react differently, and it's, I suppose, trying to just create scenarios of high pressure which potentially may benefit you late into a game. But sometimes it's difficult to see the correlation, Joe. But if you get 1% out of it, does make a difference, I feel.
How much of a break have you had then from Crusaders to rocking up at La Rochelle?
I had a few good nights out in Canterbury. But that's how you play, get involved. We had a Monday and Tuesday, and flew on the Wednesday, and back to Paris, cleared out the house and moved some of it to Cork and some of it to La Rochelle, and families in Cork for a few weeks, and then come down here for school.
Right. So
I do kind of.
So no break as such, no holiday, no time on the beach or anything like that. Like you're straight back in. Are you a little bit wiped? Are you a little bit tired?
No, I don't think so. To be fair, I had 2 good years. Like Super Rugby's only 8 months, max 7 months sometimes. So those other 2 seasons, I had a brilliant opportunity to recharge and have a look at different aspects. But I think it is important that you do that, and you look at other sports as well, which are hugely interesting. And the hurling at the weekend was, I think anyone interested in sport could take a thing or two out of that game. So I think that's the golf as well. I just think we've been spoiled this summer with a lot of great, I suppose, events to watch.
Rog, you've obviously embarked on pre-season as a player at Munster and then with Racing with Crusaders, so you know the kind of conditioning of these players when they come back. Looking at La Rochelle's last game, the 8th of June, so by my poor maths, July 15th, that's 37 days between their last game and you taking them in for pre-season. Like what kind of a state are your squad in mentally and physically? Because it's no break at all.
Yeah, I don't know, Dave, to be honest. And I missed week 1, which isn't ideal, because it's kind of no planning really. It's a previous planning that that you're putting trust in other people as well, and it's perfect. But as you said, in an ideal world, you'd love to kind of sit down and go through it and tweak it and go over it again, and maybe you can do this better. But I think the great thing about the French Championship, Dave, is that you won't maintain form for the whole campaign. So the goal is to try and peak when it matters most. But you can't be intense for 11 months of the year. And I don't know physically or mentally, but what I do know is that there's a good vibe, and that's the most important thing in any camp. And once you have that, you'd like to think that you can make a difference.
How on top are you of this playing group? Like, how well do you know them? When did you know you were going to take the La Rochelle job, and did you spend time as well as trying to bloody win a rugby championship with
No, I
Super Rugby
don't
Championship?
know them very well.
Yeah, you don't.
As players, but the trick, Joe, for me is trying to get them to know them as people as well, and try and know what makes them tick. And you find confidence is so important in any aspect, isn't it? In any job. And I haven't seen much rugby from them, and I think it's also really important that you respect what they have done in the past, because some people mightn't be showing their best form now, and there's the brilliant scenarios of have you got me?
We do.
Yeah. The brilliant scenario then of some people being much better players than trainers. So, we're going to have a hit out Friday week. So that's the first game, but first of maybe 38 or 9 games in France this season. So the great thing about it is that you can hopefully get your games right, and then training isn't as important as it might be in other competitions.
And as you get to know them, Rog, and see them up close and personal on a daily basis, is it a case of you trying to impose your rugby playing philosophy and coaching philosophy on them as a group as the days and weeks go by, or as you get to know them, are you looking to build a game plan around what they can bring to you?
Yeah, a bit of both, or even subgroups at the start. I think it's easier to sell your ideas in smaller groups, so break it up maybe potentially, and I think you get more engagement in little groups, so that would be important. It's just having a few kind of clarity meetings in that regard, and kind of tell them what you're thinking. This is how I see it. What do you think? And then I suppose one of the key things for me is that it becomes their game plan, their message, not mine. Because
but is there a risk they just tell you what you want to hear in those sort of scenarios?
Yeah, it would be, yeah, exactly. But then I probably have failed in not connecting with them, so I need to challenge myself to be able to relate to what they are saying. And like in everything else, it's a little bit different in the fact that the top 14 would be very different to what would work in New Zealand, what would work in Leinster or Munster, what would work in the Japanese league. So in that regard, I have experience, thankfully, from a few years in racing, which will really stand to me, I feel.
And what kind of things do you have in mind there when you say there are things that will work in top 14 and not in other places? Like, what are the big things for you that mark out top 14?
I think it's understanding the physicality of it, Joe. I think, like you see when Leinster play Toulouse, they're too fast for them. But the top 14 is refereed a little bit different as well, so you have to get to grips with that. I think there's areas that if you can get a really good driving maul, I think that's really important. The big one over here is, no scrum, no win, but it's no line out, no win as well. So there isn't that many difference, but I think what is happening with the rules too is that a certain amount of French players have to be in your squad, so you have to get that right. You have to get the appreciation that it's a French championship, or in France, it's their league, and you need to respect that. And I think once we show respect to the natives, then I think you can make it a really happy camp.
How's your French, genuinely? Like, how will you communicate with them?
Yeah, rusty, not as good as it needs to be, but I think courses will start again next week, so I'll be enrolling myself in them.
Yeah, and so you're like, this is you as a head coach. This is it. What was it that made you feel you were ready? Because I'm sure you must. It's tempting to do another year with Scott Robertson or do something else where you're a bit behind the scenes. But this is it. Like, because I see people asking you, "Geez, are you coming back to Munster soon?" As if it's irrelevant whether this goes well or not. Like, if you stink the joint out here, no one's going to be asking you back to Munster anytime soon. So this is a big deal for you,
Yeah, but it's kind of normal deal too. Not in a cocky way, but it's just. It's progression, normal progression. I feel that You know what I mean, the pieces of the jigsaw in my head in terms of understanding the game and what I prioritise. I feel I have a good handle on that now, and I need to get that across to players. I don't get spooked by titles either, Joe. I think the important thing is you work with really good people and that you value what they contribute and value their input. So in that regard, this is a small coaching team. Let's see how it goes, but I'm not nervous or anything like that.
And what are the things that you will have to do now that you didn't have to do in previous roles, the big things?
Well, hopefully I'll have to set the tone and set the tempo and set the desire and set... it's, you know, me, myself and John Gibbs' vision, so that's something that's really exciting. So you get to set that. So that's the biggest thing for me, the excitement that comes with that, and I suppose the opportunity to get the best out of forwards and backs, and also people that aren't starting, because I think there's a skill in that as well, because you're going to need everybody. So at the minute it's quite relaxed, but it'll obviously crank up.
And recruitment, are you involved now in bringing new players in? Is that ongoing?
Yeah, that's huge. So obviously 2 weeks into it, it's something that I need to get a good handle on, Joe, because in this championship over here, recruitment is very important, and securing players you want to keep and trying to keep other clubs away from guys that they want to poach and vice versa. So I think there's a skill in that, but obviously I'm not the most experienced at that.
Is there like a transfer window, Rog? What way does it work? At what stage will you know this is the squad that I will be working with from weeks 1 right through to the potential playoffs?
I think that's it now, Dave. At the minute, it's 95% of your recruitment is done. There's an opportunity for Rugby World Cup jokers or medical jokers or supplementary players, maybe 3 throughout the season. But I even have to even brush up on the rules and that, when the windows are and what you can and can't do. But obviously the international players from Fiji and France with us aren't in camp, so I think there's about another 6 I think at the minute missing, so they'll come back in, but it's the same as everything. This is the core of the group. This is the group that will decide what we'll do. So this is it.
What's the biggest thing you've taken from Crusaders? Like as you rock up here, is there something that you've said to yourself, well, whatever happens, I ain't forgetting that. That is a key thing I've learned over the last couple of years. I'm
hopefully better at dealing with stress, and I think that's very important to me. I think the fact that I've kind of got really wound up as a player and potentially as an assistant coach, but I feel that I have that in a good place at the minute. I hope it lasts. So I think it's really fascinating for me to be able to get not the better of that, but kind of more look upon the excitement of the role as opposed to the stress of the role. Because you can make head coaching really stressful, but you can also make it what you want it to be. And I think that was the great thing with working with Razor, the fact that he made it really, really exciting and enjoyable, and that would be a model I'd like to follow.
Are you able to disconnect from the whole thing once you leave the training facility, Roger? Or are you bringing clips home with you, notes home with you? Are you constantly thinking about it when you're back at home?
I think pre-season is different, and it's the same in every club. Dave, you just got to kind of get the hard yards done now for the first 2 months, and then hopefully a little bit of a pattern begins to emerge, and you kind of need to prioritise then what we're going to get good at and remain good at and need to work on. But at the minute it feels like you just have a mountain of work every day, and then by the end of the week it's got bigger.
What's stressful about that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know the way you talked in glowing terms about the way Scott Robertson would theme a year, and it was a very powerful thing, and you thought, I like that as well. Is that something that you're going to bring to La Rochelle?
But I couldn't, because of my level of French at the minute, Joe. You You need to be absolutely fluent and get every word right. At the minute, that's not the case. It would be incredibly difficult, but I just think the fascination of getting the mindset right is nearly 3/4 of the battle. So going forward, that would be something that you would take. Yeah,
I guess it's the kind of thing, if you don't get all the words right, that any kind of skepticism in the room would mean it would fall flat on its face. If you're going to do something like that, you need to nail it.
Yeah, because rugby, as you say, exactly, in one language it's hard enough because the opposition have a plan as well to mess you up. You know, but you're thinking then you have all the nationalities of the world from different cultures of the world, and you're trying to team something and explain it in not your first language. And I used to not getting all the words, but actually one word in French placed in a different part of the phrase changes its interpretation to players. So
Right.
kind of found that out once or twice this week, which isn't ideal. But it's an excuse at the minute, but you can turn it into you can chip away at that. I'm confident of chipping away at it.
Yeah. We're talking here, if you're just tuning in, with Ronan O'Gara over in La Rochelle, with thanks to Vodafone, team of us, everyone in. Looking last year in the top 14, La Rochelle finished 5th, 27 points off Toulouse, 12 points behind Clermont, who were in 2nd. And I don't know, do you set those kind of targets at the start of the season with John O'Gibbs? I know, like, the stock thing would be, well, we just worry about performance and the results will worry about themselves. And you've also got a European campaign as well. So, like, do you have a priority? Do you have, well, like, the top 4 in the top 14 and we give Europe a crack? Or do you set your sights higher, or do you set no targets?
You know, I actually I've lived every day of ensuring what getting your preparation looks like, and look when that looks good for the last 2 seasons, and I place immense value in that. So I think if you get your preparation right, if you get your detail right, it gives you a chance to perform. So if you perform, you're looking at outcomes. But I don't look at outcomes anymore. I think once you get the ingredients right, then the outcome looks after itself.
And you'll tell yourself that after a couple of losses.
You're chipping away nicely, aren't you, Joe?
No. Is there?
Yeah, of course, exactly. But that will be,
That's the challenge. Yeah. Yeah. Are there characteristics that differentiate a French dressing room from, say, an Irish one or a New Zealand one?
Yeah, well, I think there are. I think the top 14 is a business as well. I don't think Irish rugby is a business, in the fact that it's business for some people, but over here potentially there's more of an opportunity for players to see it as a business and move clubs for X amount of money. But I don't see that in Ireland at all. There's obviously a lot more clubs over here, and because of the regulations of a certain amount of players needed in every squad, they need to be French. It creates a market for French players. So my biggest challenge and my biggest opportunity, and something I'm looking forward to, is to really connect with the GIF players, the French players, and try and make them French internationals, Joe. That's my goal, If they play well for La Rochelle, they have a chance of playing for France, and that should be every young boy, old boy, whoever's playing the game, that should be their desire. There's something wrong inside you if you do not want to play for your national team. So yeah, it'll deprive you of players if you are successful, but I think you've one short career, you got to make the most of it, and your best of your memories are playing for your national team along with your club team.
When we talked a couple of months ago and you were still weighing up the decision, there was no doubt that family life was given a big weighting in your mind, like what the right decision is. How does La Rochelle set up from a family point of view? Is it everything you were kind of hoping it would be?
I don't know, because they haven't seen it, and I think the twins are nearly 11 now, so they're not happy going to school in France, and they've told me that. But I'm hoping if I can tell them they can go to the beach after school most days in the summer, that
swing something. Had they not been in school in France originally? No.
Oh, they have, yeah. But like school in New Zealand is brilliant for them, because it's a lot of outdoor activity, a lot of kind of an open air policy is what they did, while in France it's strict.
Right.
It's long and it's difficult.
They do long days in France, don't they?
Yeah, very long.
Is it 5, 6?
No, it's only 5 days.
No,
5
like to
days.
5 o'clock in the evening. Do I have that right?
Maybe of half
Maybe.
4.
Right,
Half
okay. Okay, because someone has texted in, lads, tell Rog I'm just back from La Rochelle. I got a savage deal down the fish market. Plate of fresh oysters, prawns, bowl of bread, glass of wine, €5. You might let him know it could help him settle, says Chris and Cavan. There you go.
Jeez, what was the name of the place?
He didn't give the name, he said the fish market. So is there
€5. That would suit a lot of the fellas I played with.
And then Marcus says, I left La Rochelle this morning. I was on a family holiday. The taxi driver very optimistic about their new Irish rugby coach. Best of luck, Ronan. Nothing but success in France. It's a bit of a rugby town, La Rochelle, I'm reading.
Yeah, it seems to be. I have only been in there once, Joe, but there seems to be. You look at that was definitely one of the attractions. Anytime I went there racing, there was a pumping atmosphere in the ground, 16,000 people going for it. You know, I think that's really important. That's one of the major, I suppose, negatives of Super Rugby. The crowd and the influence of the supporters. But the crowd in La Rochelle get in behind their team and they make it difficult for opposing teams. And I still think that's really important in sport. And they have a huge role in pushing the team where the team need to get to. So I enjoy that. I think that's important that guys get an opportunity to play in front of a passionate home support. And for me, I value that.
Yeah. And one last one, actually. It's a World Cup year. What happens during that? Like, do you lose a bunch of players? I know they have to be in the squad. Or does top 14 continue? Or what's happening this year?
Yeah, top 14. So that's it. They make their own rules, Joe, and top 14 is a bit of a monster. So there's no games, I think, on the weekend of the semi-final and the final.
Right.
But you know, they out of nowhere they make charges at World Cup, so you can't write them off, even though everything says you should. But I think the vibes about Galtee are feeding back are very positive, and seems to be a lot better atmosphere in camp.
Right, okay. Listen, we'll let you go. You've got your hands full there. Thanks so much for your time. Much appreciated.
Cheers. See you, Dave. Thanks, Joe.
Cheer up. Cheers.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us, everyone in.
The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, I'll be joined by Conor O'Mahony, the newly appointed Child Protection Rapporteur, to discuss his role. Bill Hughes will stop by with more movie magic, this time looking at Forrest Gump. And Pádraig Horkin will be here to answer all of your gardening questions.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With MasterCard.
With me, Jonathan Healy, tomorrow from 9.
On News Talk.
So there I was, browsing appliancesdelivered.ie, when what do I see? Only the future. Segway electric scooters. They're amazing. All the fun of your favourite childhood scooter without any of the effort. And not just electric scooters. Appliances Delivered now has a whole smart transport range with electric bikes, smart helmets, even Segway electric go-karts.